Hey there, it is 5 o'clock. This is like the hour that I have been joining you all live on our Instagram account, and also just want to thank you all for hanging out with me on a Wednesday evening as I just share what we're doing, what I've been learning here at Re+active. And today, again, hey Kelly, nice to see you. I'm going to share our pie chart here so I can talk about it, and we have a visual for you. So, hey, Anna too, nice to see you all. So, if you know us at Re+active, you know we love a little pie chart. And I want to tell you a little story about how we kind of started using this really to make our lives easier. And when we teach about things and work on kind of that clinical decision making and thought process, how a pie chart helps us so much. So this particular pie chart is all about persistent post-concussion symptoms. Now you've seen we literally have a pie chart for everything now. Functional movement disorders, 3PD, dystonia, ataxia, and we make this pie chart. Hey Nicole, thanks for joining me. We make this pie chart to help us understand a person and a more complex case and their history, and sort through and categorize and help us understand the person in front of us so that we can get started. Sometimes it's so hard just to get started when you've got a ton of neurologic signs coming at you. You're listening to a person's story and you're like, okay, there's vestibular, there's visual, there's motor things, there's sensory things, or I don't even know where to start. So this creating the pie chart really helped us in helping other therapists know where to start with the disorder, and especially something that is really complex. So that's the first piece. This is our kind of where to get started. The other thing that I really love about a pie chart is that you can change it, right? So you can change the size of the pies. And in a lot of things, I think our desire is almost to have a cookbook, a recipe book that would say, okay, well, you see this, this, and this, so you're going to do this, this, and this, and you're going to do 10 of these, and 10 of these, and 10 of these, and 10 of these. So that's our tendency, that's our desire, but humans are just not made that way. We're so individual, and especially when we see complex neurologic disorders, there's not a recipe, there's not a cookbook, there's not a one-size-fits-all approach, and so we need a pie chart. And I love this. Somebody just added, I love the idea of a pie chart for speech pathologists. Yes, I could see adapting this for new evaluations with birth to 3 kids. Absolutely. So this is what we use in teaching a lot of this to our own team, to our Brain Bites community, and all of our courses. And we've adapted it literally for everything. And then what we've done is kind of made an interactive pie chart that we sit down and we move the pieces of pie around with the person. We draw on this. The person brings to us and says, hey, I actually am seeing and noticing a huge amount in the autonomic realm. Okay, let's make that piece of the pie bigger and let's address it. Let's assess it and treat it. So what you see here, this is our first, by the way, so voila, I'm introducing our persistent post-concussion symptoms pie chart. This is the first time we put it out there. Brittany Charlet, our amazing concussion program director, she's based out of our Torrance clinic, has actually been the inspiration, but at least behind this visual. Our pie charts used to look like they were straight out of the 90s and they were ugly. And she created this lovely visual. She's been using it with patients. And then our team put it together to really look at By the way, we don't just like make these up out of nowhere. We take the pathophysiology, so the literature in understanding the pathophysiology. We take the literature that tells us about assessment in persistent post-concussion symptoms. We take the literature in the treatment approaches and the benefits of addressing different areas in persistent post-concussions symptoms, and then we put it into a pie. So this is just not like an opinion. This is based out of the literature and a lot of learning that we have done, which, by the way, huge shout out to my colleagues, Molly Parker, Natasha Welch, Katie, who's at Thrive Neuro PT. I hope I got that right. Anyway, a lot of great concussion PTs out there that have been a big source of learning for us. And so we've taken that learning and put it into a pie chart. I'm going to take you around the pie here. Let's start out at the top. And by the way, this is kind of our general pie, and then we would have an assessment pie chart and a treatment pie chart. That's not all included in here, but these categories are what we would take into consideration with both assessment and treatment. So when we're looking at a person who has persistent post-concussion symptoms, we see a lot of this at Re+active. We do an intensive program. We do a 4-week intensive PT, OT, neuropsychology, yoga therapy, and exercise therapy program for people with persistent post-concussion symptoms. And I think one of the biggest pieces of our success and many other people who have an approach for concussion is that it's holistic, and it takes in all of these pieces of the pie at the same time. So one of the things that I know can really frustrate people is that they've gone and invested time and energy and money into visual, and then into vestibular, and then addressed the neck, and then did lifestyle and diet, and then did autonomic, but never all together. And this is all integrated, right, in our nervous system. So that's why we do an intensive approach and really take into consideration all pieces of the pie. So let me go around here, starting at the top. Like literally is what Mad Bars, I don't know if that's a Maddie, but literally is what they said. This is the story when I meet with people, when I talk to them about their stories, what they've been going through, literally all of those things, often in separate pieces. So let's put it together. Sensory. So sensory is huge. I know in this particular pie chart, it only says 20%, but it's huge. And vestibular visual are big parts of it, but that's not all. We have other sensory systems, right? So how about somatosensation and proprioception? And what about hearing and taste and smell? All can be disrupted with a brain injury. And so we have to, that's why there's a little plus sign on that. I don't know if you can really see it because of my picture, but it's sensory. Vestibular visual plus. Vestibular visual are a huge piece, but plus. Don't forget about the other sensory systems. We're huge on the sensory systems at Re+active because they often get overlooked. You got to test it out, and if there's impairments, we got to treat that integration of the sensory information. Motor control. So you'll see in the second little picture, we got somebody doing a little tree pose, one of my favorites. And that's not because motor control is about yoga, but motor control, big piece of that gets disturbed in a brain injury is balance, is postural responses, both anticipatory and reactive postural responses. It's integration. Now, this is where we've had lots of conversations about the pie because motor control actually includes parts of cognition and it includes parts of sensation because these don't work in isolation. You don't just move your muscles without sensory input, without the brain sending signals about a goal-oriented activity that you want to do. So sometimes these little categories are hard to piece apart, but motor control, we're really thinking about how we're moving the body and responding from a balance standpoint. So again, we got to assess it, we got to treat it, and we're going to treat it in conjunction with these things. We're going to treat it in conjunction with the sensory, the visual, the vestibular, treat it in conjunction with cognition. This is a big piece, and this is why I love having neuropsychology on our team. Test it out and incorporate it into treatment. So all of those executive function, judgment, dual task, set shifting, all of those pieces that go into our everyday life, our lives as being humans and making decisions every day, and the decision difficulty and brain fog that can come with concussion is just so overwhelming. So cognition, so very important. And I will say there are some people that have that's a smaller piece of the pie. Maybe it's only 5%, right? So this is not like your typical pie, like every percentage. That's so individual. Lifestyle and psychosocial. This is why I'm so thankful again to have both psychology and OT on our team who specialize in this, but taking into account sleep and diet, stress management, all of those contextual factors that can play a role, and how our mood is affected and our personality affected by a brain injury is so important. We've got to test it out. We want to incorporate it into treatment. And again, integrate it with all the other pieces. It's part of the pie. Then autonomic. Now, right now that autonomic is lying at 20%, but honestly, to me, I often see this as like a huge piece. Sometimes I want to make like 50% of pieces of the pie all over the pie, but the math doesn't work, right? So autonomic is something that, as you know, we've been obsessed with at Re+active, testing it. So we've been trialing pupillometry, again, thanks to some amazing colleagues in Canada for introducing us to that. So test it out and then incorporate it into treatment. If you're really interested in the autonomic nervous system, we have a great free webinar that we did on it, by the way. So you can catch it on our education page and our free webinars. I love the autonomic nervous system. Okay, coming around the pie here, finally, but last and certainly not least, is the cervical spine. It gets its own spot there. We put the rest of the body in because it's not just the neck, right? Like, I'm sorry, you can't isolate all of the problems to the neck. The neck gets injured in a brain injury. Absolutely, yes. The neck gets involved proprioceptively and involved with headaches. So dizziness, headache, neck and head pain. But we've got to test the rest of the body as well. What about shoulder mobility and back and thoracic spine and the hips and the pelvis? And what about the ankles? So there's a lot there as well. So a brain injury does not just affect the brain. And it doesn't just affect the cervical spine. We've got to test out and treat the rest of the body as well. So yes, those are all separate categories, but boy, it's a messy, messy web. Sometimes untangling this, it's like you find one piece and you discover another, and then you discover another. And this is why we work together in a team. This is why I love being able to kind of brainstorm and figure out these pieces together with other practitioners. And I would love to hear from you. I know there are a lot of healthcare providers in our Instagram community who work with concussion, and I want to hear from you. What do you think of the pie chart? What's missing here? I just want your feedback. We might change it. This is brand new, right? So this is like literally, we finished this yesterday and I was like, I'm going to talk about it because I'm so excited. And I'm going to talk about it again on Friday in our Facebook Live. And I'll put a new twist on it. I'm going to ask the question, is a persistent post-concussion symptoms a functional neurologic disorder? And I'm super excited to talk about that. Join me on Friday in our Facebook Live. And again, we've got some awesome resources. So 2 key articles that I've been looking at this week linking persistent post-concussion symptoms. the autonomic nervous system, and functional neurologic disorders. I'm going to put those in our newsletter. Comes out every Friday. Join our email list. There's a link in our bio here on Instagram to get that newsletter delivered to you every Friday. We'll include the video here. We'll include our Facebook Live, all the resources, and pretty much whatever I've been reading and discovering or our team has for the week. So, I love putting that together. I hope you'll join that. And I would love your feedback here. So thank you again for joining me today live here on Wednesday evening. And I will catch you on Friday. But I hope to hear from you soon. Thanks so much.